Hello everyone. I'm glad to see you on my channel. The story I'm going to tell you today is pure. It is true that all the bad things that happen in life happen for a reason. It is said that we can appreciate the good things, the things when they happen to us. I hope you enjoy this story. I wish you a pleasant viewing experience.
Angelica, take your mind off your notes. I found out something. Angelica, that's something. Imagine the girls went to a fortune teller, and the fortune teller will tell you everything about your life. Let's go to that woman. I'm dying to know what's over the horizon. Yes, I do not believe in these fortune telling. There are fools like you. Go fortune telling, and this woman is ripping off money from you. Angelica laughed at her friend. Divorced like you gullible. Voluntary ripoff is. Don't say that. Angelica's friend didn't stop. Many people who went to her have already started to come true. Natalie is getting married. This fortune teller told her exactly the year and month, and even the day when she will get married. It's just that Natalie had this thing in her head, and she was striving for it. That's the truth. And the date? How could Natalie have guessed the date? It's not like she knew what day they were going to register. Well, give or take, she had a rough date. Angelica didn't give up. But not the exact one, insisted Selena. Angelica, I want to look into my future at least a little, and suddenly, as they say, we can lay the straw, so that it would not be painful to fall, and suddenly I can prevent something bad in my fate. Come on, Angelica, let's go. I'm not going. Why should I give the money to some woman who noodles on the ears? Resisted Angelica, I'm sure we'll be fine. That's how you think, dream, so it will be. The main thing is to strive for your dream. We'll finish the institute, we'll be doctors. It's already great, Selena. We'll treat people, maybe even save them. Well, that's your profession. But I want to know about your personal life, Selena sniggered. And in the personal, you and I will be the best, laughed Angelica. Better than everyone else. And no one is jealous, so my mother says. And what if it won't be? They say you can ask a fortune teller questions and she answers them. I wanted to know if Alex is my destiny or not. I'm afraid of getting in trouble. Alex insists on intimacy. He says it's all the same. We'll finish the institute and get married. But I'm afraid. What if it's not? What if we don't get married? Angelica, for my sake, please. Let's go, for my sake, please. Why don't you go yourself? I'm afraid to go alone. But if we had gone together, you would have changed your mind, and would have wanted to read the fortune. You're a sticky Selena, all right. Let's go, but not today and not tomorrow. Why not? Selena asked, disappointed. Easter holidays are not over yet. They say fortune telling is a sin, and I don't want to sin. Since when did you become such a believer? I've never seen you like this before. Didn't they tell you at school that there's no God? It's all religion, Angelica, the opium of the people. They did, but I'll tell you in the words of my father, he's not really a believer either, but he said to me, we're not the ones who established all this, and we're not the ones to abolish it, understand? Abolish what? Selena doesn't understand. God. So many people believe in him, so there is something. That's just my personal opinion. Come on, we'll go when you say. Selena sighed, I'm not going alone. That's a strange fortune teller, Angelica thought. She doesn't look like a fortune teller at all. There were no magic balls in her house, no candles, no icons, no herbs hanging everywhere. In general, no trappings of fortune tellers, and the aunt herself was not like a magician. No amulets on her, did not hang in ordinary clothes. She was dressed in a house robe and a flower. Her hair was picked up by a headband, and she met her friends with a smile, with an ordinary smile, nothing demonic, supernatural in her smile was not. Have you come to torture your fate, girls? With a grin asked the fortune teller, not afraid? What is there to be afraid of? Angelica smiled skeptically. So fate may not please you. One thing to live and do not know what will happen to you, and another to know everything in advance and worry about it. You can prevent bad things from happening if you know about them, replied Angelica. That's the thing, that you cannot. Seriously, already without a smile, replied the fortune teller. I see, girl, you do not believe in fortune telling. I do not believe, admitted Angelica. Then why did you come? A friend asked me. She wants to know her fate. She thinks that if she finds out something important and unpleasant, she will be able to make a bed. But if, as you say, she can't, then why know her fate? To know or not to know, it's everyone's right. answered the fortune teller. You can prevent small things, but global events are inevitable. What kind of global events? Selena asked. Events that can change your life and turn it 180 degrees. The date of your birth and death, the date of birth and death of your relatives. I mean it. What's your name? The fortune teller turned to Selena. Selena, are you ready to hear your destiny, Selena? Or have you changed your mind? No, not changed my mind. Selena hurried to convince the fortune teller of her intentions. That's why I came to you. Then I asked for silence and nothing else, only silence. The fortune teller looked at the lines of both Selena's hands for a long time, then folded the girl's hands palm to palm and held them in her hands. Looking at all these tricks, Angelica could not refrain from smiling at the skeptic. But the con artist, as Angelica thought she was not looking at Selena or Angelica. She was in a trance. She seemed to be in some other dimension. Her gaze was otherworldly and even frightening. Angelica watched Selena and the fortune teller closely, and Selena seemed strange to Angelica, to say the least. Selena, who she knew like the back of her hand, was behaving strangely. With her eyes closed, she was moving her lips as if she was whispering something. But the whisper was not audible, and then she was swaying from side to side, and the longer the session lasted, the stronger and stronger she swayed. At one point, Angelica thought Selena was going to fall off the chair. Then Selena's swaying began to slow down, and finally it stopped. The fortune teller let go of Selena's hands, and she opened her eyes. Are you all right? The fortune teller asked. I'm a little dizzy, Selena admitted. It's nothing, it'll pass. Well, Selena, the fortune teller began her prediction. You are a good person, and everything in your life will be to your credit. You will save people, and they will thank you for it. Wherever you are and whoever you communicate with, you will find respect and love. I saw you have 2 children, a son and a daughter. Your children will be like you. They will be as kind and open, and everything will be good for them. You will live a long and happy life and write a book. Oh, laughed Selena at me, and a book? Yes, you will. And the newspapers will write about you. Happy you are like that. Now ask questions. I'm dating a guy now. I wanted to know, will I marry him? No, you won't. Dating me, get life experience, but do not enter into a serious relationship with him. Not your man, he will betray you. But you do not get upset and do not close yourself off from the world. Your man will appear much later. No one will not believe in your marriage. You and yourself in it will not believe in it. But do not hurry to marry the first one. Wait for the one, the only one who is destined for you by fate. How will I know it's him? Don't worry, you'll know. You just can't help but feel that it's him. Can I make a straw? Selena smiled. You can, as long as you don't marry someone who isn't meant for you. Otherwise, there will be a lot of disappointment and mistrust in your life, and you might not believe in your one and only one, and then your life might take a different turn. Well, that's it, said the fortune teller. And when I die, or don't you see it? Selena asked. I see everything, but I don't tell anyone the dates of death. People don't need to know. Thank you, smiled Selena and put the money on the table. The fortune teller quickly grabbed the bills from the table, opened the dresser, and threw the money in there, as if she was afraid that it would be taken away from her. Angelica couldn't take it anymore and spoke her mind. All that you said, fortune-telling Selena, all this is just general phrases. People to help, you'll be happy, 2 children. Where are the supporting facts of your predictions? Angelica questioned. And nowhere, life will show that I am right, answered the fortune teller. Some nonsense, grinned Angelica, as you guess. I can also guess like that, without confirmation, without proof. I'll say all sorts of nonsense, take the money and profit from such gullible people as Selena. And let me tell your fortune, suggested the fortune teller. I will not take money, and then you will live your life. Remember me, because everything I say will come true. Agree, supported the fortune teller Selena. They do not take money from you. It is interesting, Angelica, agree. Even if you don't believe in it, it's still interesting. The fortune teller looked at Angelica carefully, without blinking. Angelica wanted to refuse, but apparently the fortune teller still had some hypnotism, because Angelica went to the table where the money had just been lying, sat down on the chair from which Selena had just gotten up, and held out her hands to the fortune teller. Selena was now watching her friend and the fortune teller. The fortune teller was closing and opening her eyes. Her face had a look of horror on it, and Angelica was swaying from side to side and shrieking a lot, which frightened Selena. But Angelica's body swaying slowed down. She opened her eyes and Selena saw that her friend had tears rolling down her cheeks. "How are you feeling?" the fortune teller asked Angelica. "I felt that I was not there all this time, nowhere to be found, as if I had died. Now I have a terrible headache. I'm thirsty." The fortune teller brought Angelica a glass of water and said, "I don't know if you need to know about your destiny. It's a very complicated fate, very complicated. I have never met people with such fates. I was afraid for you." "Are you saying that on purpose?" Angelica smiled. "You don't want to say it because it's your exposure. It's the collapse of your business. I am ready to say everything or selectively, so that you were not so terrible to live with it," smiled sadly and shook her head, as if she was shaking off bad thoughts. "Say everything, nothing you will not scare me. A man himself and God and the devil. He himself builds his life as he wishes." "Well then, listen." "Angelica, maybe we shouldn't." Selena asked fearfully. "I'm scared. You even screamed when you were in a trance." "What about what?" "Selena, are you trying to scare me?" "Me? A future doctor? Don't be ridiculous. Scary stories don't scare me." "Speak up." She turned to the fortune teller. "I don't know why you have such a difficult fate, maybe because of your parents' sins. But I have not looked into their fate, so I cannot judge about it. My parents are normal, kind, doctors, help people, treat people, but my dad is sick now, very sick." "You mean the ones you live with now?" "Does a person have 3 or 4 pairs of parents?" Angelica grinned. "No, only one pair, and they are not the people who raise you." Selena gawked, and Angelica laughed and said, "That confirms what you're saying." "Selena, I don't have time to listen to this nonsense. Let's go." Angelica was about to leave, but the words of the fortune teller stopped her. "And here's what you know. I, before the fortune telling, could not know about it. You are up to 7 years old, was raised by your grandmother, and she is also not yours. And your parents live far away from you, because of the fact that your adoptive father, after serving time in prison, was on a free settlement, and your adoptive mother was near him, did not want to leave him alone. You are their only child. They have no other children. They're much older than your parents, and your foster mom went to war. Do you want to hear more?" Selena was as if numbed by the fortune teller's words, sitting as if in a kind of stupor. What surprised me further, Angelica sat down on a chair and stared at the fortune teller. "Then listen and do not interrupt. Then ask what is unclear. Your real relatives will appear later and for mercantile purposes. You will be a doctor like your friend, but Selena will save people, and on your account will be more killed than saved. You will burn in hell for your deeds, but your hell will begin here on earth, in your lifetime. You will also have 2 children, a daughter and a son, an older daughter, a younger son. You will love your son very much, more than your daughter, more than anyone in the world. He will be a light in your window of life, but your love will not lead to good things. The higher powers will know that you have no one dearer than your son, so they will take him away from you for your sins. Don't expect happiness. You won't have it. It's bad. It's all bad. No, you will be happy for a while, but after the death of your son, your happiness will evaporate. Your daughter will also be unhappy. Neither you nor her husband will be unloved, and all because you will love him more than your living daughter even after your son's death. You will have 2 marriages after the death of your son. You and your husband will not be able to live together. You will blame each other for the death of your son. That's how it is. That's about it." "What a tragicomedy," smiled Angelica. "I don't believe it. It's nonsense. I'll be happy." "But I named the events that have already happened in your life, and I'm sure you agreed with them. You said all those things to spite me because I didn't believe you. That's the truth. What about death? When will I die?" Angelica smiled skeptically. "Why do you need to know about that? Birth and death are mysteries, not to be intruded upon. Birth and death, this is God's providence, and it is not worth a man to look into them. And I want to know, tell me, for I will find you only boasting of your knowledge. On June 6th, you will die." I was going not to say what year, but then I thought, if you're going to wait for your death every year, I'll tell you. It will be June 6th, 2024th year. Not such a short life, according to your predictions. I'll try to cheat death. I think when you know the exact date of its coming, it's possible. No one has ever cheated death. It will come when it's fated. If you live to see that time, I will come to you and tell you how I cheated it." Angelica laughed. "You are young, stupid," replied the fortune teller, "but nothing. Life is not only science, and you will pass the school." For a while, The friends walked in silence, but Selena's curiosity got the upper hand. "Will you ask Aunt Betty if you're related to them or not?" Selena asked. "What? Of course not. Why would I want to offend my parents with some fortune teller's predictions? I wouldn't even think about it. What if it's true? Because what your grandmother raised you, and what Aunt Betty fought in the war, and what your father did in prison, they're all true. Because your parents were foster parents. It could also be. It can't. We have almost the whole country was at war, and half of the country was in jail. It's just a fortune teller's guess." Angelica interrupted her friend. "It can't, and that's it. Close this topic. Understand?" "Well, close, so closed," said Selena resentfully. Selena decided to find out everything from her mother. Her mother can't not know about it, because she and Aunt Betty are very much friends and know each other almost since childhood. "Mom, are Angelica's parents adopted? Aunt Betty is not Angelica's birth mother." Valentina shuddered and turned away to the window. "Mom, you hear what I'm saying?" "What are you, daughter? What are you saying?" "I was thinking, so I didn't hear you." But Selena didn't believe her mother. She saw how she twitched when she heard the question. "I'm saying Angelica's parents are not her own." "What makes you say that?" "They're her parents. They're her parents. Where's all this gossip coming from?" "It's not gossip. It's a fortune teller," told Angelica. "Why are you fools going to fortune tellers? Don't you have anything better to do? You better spend your girlhood on your dancing, not on fortune tellers. If I find out you went there, I'll drag you by your hair. Selena, I don't care if you're a grown-up girl. I don't want you to go to fortune tellers again. Do you understand?" I got it. What's with the braids?" "Because some people don't understand otherwise." "Enough nonsense. Go to the store for milk and bread. Buy some puffs. But look, choose the ones with more powdered sugar. Don't forget the milk can, like last time." "Joel, my fur," smiled Selena. "What's this fur? Do you know who the Führer is, you silly mill?" "I know you can't take a joke." Selena took offense. "Do you know what happens for jokes like that? I don't want to hear it. Do you get?" "Got it," Selena sighed, picked up the can and went outside, waving the can as she thought, "No, Mom definitely knows something about the Walker family. How she attacked me and even flinched when I asked about Angelica's parents." "Wait, Selena, what's wrong with you?" "Stop sobbing," hugged her friend Angelica. Tell me what's wrong." Selena sobbed, trying to stop sobbing and answer Angelica, but she couldn't. She was out of breath and couldn't say anything. "Anything at home?" Angelica asked. Selena shook her head negatively. "Here, drink some water." Angelica handed her a mug of water. Selena took 2 sips of water and said, "Alex proposed," and sobbed again. "It's beautiful." Angelica smiled. "Why are you crying, you fool?" "He didn't propose to me, Angelica, not to me. He dated me for 4 years, and he's marrying someone else." "It can't be." Angelica was surprised. "It's all gossip. We should ask Alex. He told me about it. He's going to marry Marie. They have already applied to the registry office." "Well," Angelica was surprised. "I didn't expect that from Alex. And this is not a joke. Maybe he was joking?" "What kind of joke is that? Maria's 2 months pregnant." "What a bunch of conspirators, and no one's ever noticed anything about them." "When did they do it?" I asked him the same thing. And you know what he said? "No details," he said. "Angelica, he spoke to me so harshly and cruelly. He said it was my fault that Maria was pregnant, that I didn't consent to intimacy with him, and he's a man, he needs sex." Selena cried and mumbled through her tears. "That's the fortune teller's words come true. My Alex is not mine at all. Maria took him away, and I'm at a broken trough." "What does the fortune teller have to do with it?" Angelica answered thoughtfully. "He's a scoundrel, that's all. Good thing you didn't marry him. He'd be walking around behind your back. Right, left, right. Don't cry, Selena." Angelica hugged and cuddled her friend. "You don't know who's luckier, you or Maria. I think that you, so let's calm down, my Selena, and live on. And so live that all Alexa and Maria from envy burst." On the noisy platform of the train station, Angelica saw Selena off. Selena put her arm around her friend, and for a while they stood in silence. Angelica felt some kind of guilt in front of her friend, because she was staying in her hometown and Selena was leaving on assignment. Angelica's mother, as a war veteran, as an honored doctor, who had connections in certain circles, hustled, and Angelica, after graduation from the institute, left in the city. Angelica stays here and will work in the maternity hospital of the district. Will help women in the most important of their destiny to become a mother. Here in wrong was fortune teller she, Angelica, conductor of new lives, and what can be more beautiful than the birth of a child, and she is a participant in this sacrament. How will I be without you, Angelica? Selena's eyes were wet. 3 whole years without you. But I'll come home, I'll do my duty, and I'll come back. Of course you will. Angelica reassured her. It's our town, you'll come back, and then you'll come on vacation, and I'll come visit you. Of course I will. Imagine, Angelica, going to a strange city where there are strangers. I'm scared. Angelica, I thought I'd marry Alex, go away together, and he'd support me, but it didn't work out. And you don't think that you are going to a foreign land. Think that you are starting a new stage of life, new people, interesting work, new impressions. You know how to support me, smiled Selena. You say that and I'm almost not afraid. I love you, Angelica. And I love you. Angelica met Jack at a medical conference, and as soon as they started a relationship. A lot of common they have, there is something to talk about. In addition, Jack knew how to court women, and Angelica's heart responded to the feelings of a young doctor. After half a year of meetings, they were married, and it seemed happier couple is not in the whole world, at least so it seemed to Angelica and Jack. They had no doubts about the birth of the child, because the desired, born-in-love child, it is a miracle. Jack was delighted with his wife's pregnancy and was expecting a son. What if it was a daughter? Angelica asked her husband, so what? Will you love her less? Would you? I'm sure it's a son. Don't even doubt it. It's my hair. We have a generation of surgeons, and my son will be a surgeon too. And yet, what if it's a daughter? You don't think she could be a surgeon? My friend Selena is a first-class surgeon. She's in the paper as a talented young specialist. Surgery is a man's business, and your Selena was an accident, Jack insisted. Angelica wanted very much to please her husband, very much wanted to give birth to a son. But a daughter was born. That's how fake and mocked them. Jack was disappointed. Of course, he did not give the appearance of a daughter, but Angelica knew that he did not get the expected because she herself was saddened by the birth of a daughter. The girl, at Jack's insistence, was named Anastasia, in honor of her mother-in-law, and Angelica made concessions to her husband, although she hated her mother-in-law and her name, among others. Mother-in-law initially took Angelica in a flip, not the kind of wife she saw next to Jack. Not frozen on his work, an economic, domestic keeper of the proverbial home, which would be carried with her son, like a fool with a piece of paper, and Angelica is the antipode of the mother-in-law's ideas, and every time, at a convenient moment, mother-in-law tried to tease her with her moralizing. At first, Angelica did not pay attention to the jab's mother-in-law, but when they say about you, pig, pig, of course, not in the literal sense of the word, then look and start grunting. This all became even more frustrating when Angelica became pregnant. Jack only laughed at Angelica's complaints. Take my mother for what she is, she'll never be any different. You think I don't get the lecture? I do. Sometimes when I bounce back from her advice, just ignore it or oppose it, my mother lets loose a couple of foul words in my direction. Be thankful those words don't fly in your direction. Thank you. Angelica said it in a heartbeat, and that was the end of the conversation. Little Leslie was already guilty of the fact that she was born a girl, and in addition, she bore the name of the hated mother-in-law, and even the appearance of the girl resembled her mother-in-law. Jack resembled his mother, and Leslie resembled Jack, hence the resemblance. Angelica did not feel for her daughter what a mother feels for her firstborn. She did not have an all-consuming love for Leslie. Maybe the girl felt unloved for herself, because she was restless, screaming, and from that Angelica was exhausted, angry at the child, sometimes even cried from powerlessness before the child screamed. Then she called her mother-in-law and asked to come to them. Angelica did not want to see her hated mother-in-law, but she knew that Leslie adored her granddaughter, so she would come at the first call. The mother-in-law took little Leslie in her arms, pressed her to herself, and smiled at her as if she had given birth to her, smiling and saying, "My little girl, my darling, no one loves you as I do. You are my blood. You are my sunshine, my beauty." Little Leslie was silent, as if listening to her grandmother, and understood her words, which made Angelica furious and an even greater hatred for her mother-in-law. But you have to give credit to her mother-in-law that she stayed with the child as long as necessary to restore Angelica's body. Angelica could finally get some sleep, go out of the house for some errands. Strangely enough, Leslie behaved quite calmly in front of her mother-in-law and slept almost all the time. Meanwhile, the grandmother watched TV or cooked dinner for Jack because the negligent daughter-in-law does not have time to cook borscht or cutlets, and Jack needs a home-cooked meal, not dumplings from the store. Jack showed no love for the little girl, not even interest, as if it was not his child. Of course, he could walk with her, ride her in a stroller, could hold her in his arms when Angelica was cooking or doing laundry, but to be delighted with his daughter, he had no such thing. He was expecting a son, but his expectations were not met. This is the environment in which the little girl Leslie grew up, with parents indifferent to her, but with a grandmother who adores her immensely. Angelica's mother did not take any part in the upbringing of her granddaughter. She was busy with her career, her sick husband, and her old mother, who lately went blind. Illness had laid the poor old lady down. Her legs had stopped walking altogether. Angelica loved her grandmother, and how could she not love her, because she was raised by her grandmother? Parents were busy working, often shifts, extracurricular, and still hard, because the work of doctors, especially surgeons, which were Angelica's parents, and morally and physically very hard work, and grandmother was always at home, always close to Angelica. Having married, Angelica did not forget the road to her grandmother and often visited her, sometimes alone, when her mother-in-law stayed with her daughter, sometimes with Nastia. Today grandmother called Angelica and asked her to come with her little girl. "My granddaughter, I have not long left to smoke this light, and I wanted to see you and Leslie at last," Grandma said. She asked to put little Leslie next to her, and when grandmother stroked the little girl's head, pressed her to herself, it seemed that now grandmother would stand on her feet, pick up her great-granddaughter and walk around the room. So touching they looked, and so invigorating the little girl acted on grandmother. "As small as you were when you were Angelica," Grandma said, "she looks just like you, a pure angel." Tears rolled down her wrinkled cheeks and dripped on the little girl's face. She wrinkled and blinked a lot, not understanding where it was dripping from. "Take the baby. There is no need for her to wash herself with my old tears," said grandmother. "Let our baby be happy and will not know any grief. Let her not have those hardships and troubles, which with this cursed war we have experienced. I want everything to be well with you, my dears, and everything will be fine, but without me I'll die. I feel that my hour is near, but I will help you from there as much as I can and as I can. You only listen to yourself, Angelica. Memorize your dreams. I will send you clues and keep you from all evil." "Come on, Grandma, stop it. Live a little longer." "How can I live without you?" "Live on, Granny. Everyone has his time limit. My time is coming to an end. I don't want to go to the grave, Angelica, to the other world, along with the secret we all kept from you. I don't know if the secret is a sin or not, but I want to be free of it. I want to go free. I called you today to see you one last time with Leslie and to open myself to you, Angelica." Leslie, as if felt that grandmother and mother had a serious conversation, she fell asleep. Grandmother crossed the sleeping little girl, crossed herself, sighed and said on the exhalation, "Angelica, you are for us, for me, for mom, for dad, the most what it is native, but gave birth to you another woman, not my Betty, another." Grandma grabbed her chest, coughed and said, "The heart beats so hard, right out of their chest, just like that caught bird. Angelica, give me some heart drops, because I'm afraid I won't have time to tell you everything, and you still need to know." Angelica, trembling hand, put drops into a glass, diluted them with water, and gave them to her grandmother, and herself poured water into the glass and drank it in a gulp. Well, it seems to calm down," stops rumbling. "God willing, I'll have time to tell you all about it, but I beg you, baby, until I die, don't tell either Betty or Harry about what I'll tell you. I don't want them to curse me while I'm alive. And when I'm gone then, yes, Angelica, you have a different blood mother. Let me start at the beginning. As soon as Betty came home from the front, she went straight to medical school. So she finished nursing courses and went straight to the front, went through the whole war, got used to pain, blood and dirt, realized that she would have to face all this in her work. That's why she went to the institute consciously. She dreamed of being a surgeon. There, at the front, she operated on the wounded almost equally with doctors. A nurse? Didn't have the right? But only child, this is war. Doctors in their hands were not enough. And the life of the wounded do not give him urgent surgical help, sometimes counted for minutes, because they had no choice. After the war, you can say, Dunia was already a surgeon, but she had no document, so she went to study. After graduating from medical school, she was sent to a small village on assignment. There was a small hospital there, and my BT was a doctor and a nurse there, all in one person. That's where she met Harry. There was a prison there. Harry was serving his sentence there, but on the amnesty of October holidays, he was released on a free settlement in the same village, on condition that he would work as a doctor in the prison. It was a small village, so Betty and Harry bumped into each other on the job and started living together. Then they registered. Betty couldn't get pregnant. She was frozen at the front, in the trenches and in the Saplushkas, and became infertile. Harry and Betty had made peace with it, but there was an accident, and it was fateful for us. A pregnant woman came to Dusa's hospital. She was in labor. She gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl, and told Dusa that the refusal on the girl was right. It's hard for her. She can't bear 3 children. It turned out that she already had a daughter from her first marriage. Her husband had not returned from the front. She received a funeral notice for him, and she got married for the second time. She got married, and her husband was soon imprisoned for 10 years for embezzlement. She wrote him a letter, asking for advice on what to do, whether to have an abortion or not. Her husband replied that she should decide for herself, because he would be in jail for a long time, and it was unknown whether he would return from prison or not. Many did not return, dying from hard labor or for some other reason. She decided to have the baby, but she didn't think it would be twins. Betty, of course, persuaded her not to write a waiver for a girl, but she refused, saying, "I don't need any of your persuasions. I'll keep the girl and that's it, meaning you, my child." That's when Betty decided to adopt you. When this woman wrote a refusal, Betty asked her and the boy to refuse, that she wanted to separate brother and sister, but she flatly refused. She wanted to please her husband with a son. That's how we got you, Angelica. Then Harry and Betty brought you to me and I raised you till you were in school, and then they moved here. That's it, baby. That's all I wanted to tell you. No one knows you're not our own. They think you were born to my Betty. Angelica drank a glass of water to push the lump that had formed in her throat, cried and said, "What is it, Grandma? Like some abandoned puppy I was picked up. It's a shame. Didn't we raise you well, Angelica? You had everything, everything that others did not have. Dressed like a doll, food, you know yourself. We only homemade from the market buy. Taught you there, you're a doctor at us. So you shouldn't take offense at us. I'm not talking about you, Grandma. I'm talking about my mother, who left me. Is she still alive? I don't know, sweetie. Since we took you in, we don't know anything about your mother or your brother and sister. Grandma, tell me, why was my father in jail? How many times I've asked my mom, she dismisses it and says, no reason, they put him in jail by mistake. I'll tell you, Angelica, maybe I shouldn't have told you, but since I started, I'll tell you. Harry was in jail for desertion. Harry's mom can't justify it, so she's just dismissing it. So Betty's mother is a war hero, and Harry's father is a deserter, Angelica said thoughtfully, and how could her mother forgive him for such a thing, having been through the war herself, and married a deserter? And you, child, don't judge them harshly. Harry is weak, and my Dunia is strong, so they got together, and then men after the war, 1, 2, and a handful, especially no one to marry, and in addition, all frontline soldiers drinking, and Harry knows the measure and never once reproached Duzia, that she is infertile. Was he a bad father to you? He was and is a good one. He's kind, very kind. Not everyone can kill a man, even if it's a war. Your father is one of those. He's a surgeon. He's called to save, but not to kill. He's weak. Remember our deal? That you know the secret. You tell Deuce and Harry when I'm dead. Why? Why would I tell them? No, Grandma, I know and I know. So I'll tell them, so what? Let them think I don't know. If they wanted to, they would have told me a long time ago. I don't want to worry them, especially if my dad's sick. I don't want to stress him out. Leslie woke up, stretched, smiled with her toothless mouth and walked, spoke in her own language, only she understood. You little chatterbox, smiled Grandma with the same toothless mouth as her great-granddaughter. It's a pity to die. I won't be able to see Leslie growing up. My darling, my little girl. Grandma died, and after her grandmother, 8 months later, Angelica's father died. It was a hard year for Elena and her mother. 2 deaths in 1 year. It's too much. No one to support me. Angelica wrote to Selena, No one to tell, my dear friend, how hard it is for me now. Selena, and the fortune teller was right. My parents are not my relatives. My grandmother confessed to me before she died. But my mom and dad, I did not say that I found out about their secret. My dad's gone, and I don't want to worry my mom. I won't tell Jack either, but you and I are the only ones who know Selena. Now I'm getting scared of that aunt's predictions. Another year, another whole year I'm waiting for you. I can't wait for you to come back. I miss you so much. Angelica. Selena saw her at once on the station platform. She rushed toward her friend and hugged her tightly. Little Leslie, while her mother was busy hugging Selena, laughed and ran away. How pretty Angelica is, Selena exclaimed when she saw Angelica's daughter, so small and running like a meteor. Angelica caught up with her daughter and took her in her arms. What do you want? Nastia is 2.5 years old. Her daughter is growing up. Time is running out. It took you so long to get here. Time is ticking, Selena. My mom is getting old. My dad and grandma are gone, and my Leslie is growing up. That's life, Selena. Come on, let's go. Why isn't your mom here to see you? At work? She's sick. The hardships of war have taken their toll. My mommy, I missed her so much. Now she's here. I'm so glad she's here. And no, Angelica, I'll never leave here. It's my town, it's our town. I'll work, I'll treat my mommy. I'll feel sorry for her. She's the only one I've got. I have one mom left now too. You've got Leslie, you've got Jack. So you're rich, Angelica, but I don't have a life of my own. Oh, Selena, you'll get married in this marriage. Don't think it's so good. It can happen. I do not know, sadly replied Selena. I do not know how it happens there. But only by current standards. I am old for marriage. Young girls are full. They have already moved me. It remains only to push. It's okay, Selena, we'll marry you too. Remember then fortune teller said, you yourself will not believe in your marriage, and then once, and meet the man of your life. After what I learned from my grandmother, I'm starting to believe in this aunt's predictions, and Selena, I'm getting scared. Do you remember what she told me? Do you remember? Of course I remember. I also remember you said we'd be happy in spite of everyone. Let's be like that. I'd like to be happy. We will, Selena. You're back. And for me, it's such a happiness, I think, with you. A part of me, that carefree, easy, funny, and even self-confident girl. My self-confidence, my friend, has diminished. Life began to break me slowly. I wanted to tell you something else. I think Jack's cheating on me. Is it a feeling, or are you sure? I think so far. If it seems, then you should be baptized. You are a believer, as I remember, laughed Selena. Angelica did not support her friend's laughter. She looked carefully into Selena's eyes and said, let's test him for lice. What do you mean? Let's see if he'll fall for you or not. Are you crazy? What do you mean he'll bite? Well, you just flirt with him, throw him a little eye contact, and then you can tell me if he took the bait or ignored it. Angelica, if he's going out, sooner or later, you're gonna find out and I'm out of it. I don't want to be Jack's bait. And a friend, Angelica, took offense. Angelica, it seems to me that you saw me and then you played that adventurism to which you were prone in the student years. Angelica, we're not the same anymore. Unfortunately, we're not. Let's live like adults. Come on, Angelica grudgingly agreed. But if you find out anything about Jack, promise Selena that you won't keep it from me, that you'll be honest with me. You want to expose him so badly. Why? Why? I don't want to sleep with a man who is still being used by someone else. It disgusts me physically and mentally, and then I don't want to be a fool. Selena didn't like her friend's speeches. No, to be happy to meet, remember the past, and Angelica started this unpleasant conversation. Let's go to our place, Selena suggested. Mommy would be happy. We'll sit, drink wine to celebrate, talk like we used to. I can't, it's Leslie's bedtime. She can sleep at our place, Selena suggested. No, Jack's gonna be mad that I'm out with the baby. Why out? Let's call them and have him join us. No, Selena, not tonight, some other time. You don't understand me, friend. Married and single women are worlds apart. Come on, it's time for me to go. Angelica hugged Selena, took Leslie in her arms, and without a word, walked away. Angelica, bye. Selena shouted after her. Angelica, without stopping, raised her hand as if to let her know she had heard and quickened her step. The unpleasant residue of seeing her crony remained with Selena. She wondered what had happened to them. Why had Angelica changed so much? Or maybe it wasn't Angelica who had changed, but Selena herself. It seemed like nothing had passed, only 3.5 years, but Selena felt that they had drifted apart. But nothing, now she is here, at home, and will try not to destroy their friendship with Angelica. Such friendship as they have is worth a lot, since the first grade they are together. Selena and Angelica were once thick as thieves. Now during the time that Selena was out of town, the friends had grown distant, but Selena didn't want to put up with it. She called Angelica almost every day, but she cited lack of time, so their meeting was postponed and postponed. Selena turned to work and did not call her friends so often and obsessively. As they say, you can't make nice by force. Does family life change a person so much? Thought Selena, but friendship, real friendship, is no less important than family. There were no answers to the questions she was asking herself. It's a shame that things have to be this way, but if a person doesn't meet you halfway, there's nothing you can do about it. Hello, Selena, she heard Angelica's voice. I'm calling to invite you to Jack's birthday party. Will you come? Saturday at 6:00 p.m. at the Snowflake Cafe. Can you make it? I'll be there, of course I'll be there. Why do you sound so sad, Angelica? Maybe you need help, so you tell me. We've been together since we were kids, and we've never had any secrets. I'm just confused, Selena, and my life's a mess. My house is a mess and my work is a mess. I'm in a fight with the superintendent. She's got a death grip on my throat, so much so that we can't work together. Angelica, we should meet, talk. Maybe we can work things out together. Come tell us today. When you can come in, I'll be home all day. I came from night duty. My mom is at work, so I'm waiting for you. I'll come by. I'll definitely come by. Well, tell me everything. Pouring wine into glasses, Selena said. Let's have a drink. We haven't had a drink for the meeting. Yeah, I'd love to. I need not just a drink. I need to get drunk, said Angelica. She sipped from her wine glass, hugged Selena and cried. What are you doing? What are you doing, Angelica? Everything will be all right. You said yourself that we are the builders of our own life, our own happiness. It happens, we all do. A black streak and these troubles come one after another. But everything passes, Angelica, it will pass. Don't shut up. We've been together since childhood, for better or worse. Yes, yes, yes. I thought I could handle it all by myself. I can't. Being overconfident, Selena, doesn't always help. We'll get through this, girl. Tell me what's going on. Pour some more wine, Angelica asked. She sipped the wine in short gulps and looked thoughtfully into the glass, as if she wanted to see there the answers to her questions. The truth is in the wine, Angelica said. Why did they say that? Maybe because under its influence a person becomes sincere, opens the hidden corners of his soul. I don't know, answered Selena. Maybe that's true. I'll have to quit my job, said Angelica. You know, if you don't get along with your bosses, they won't let you work. I've been running around looking for a job, and what? The only jobs available are at neighborhood clinics. That's not my kind of job. You know, Selena, I'm a practitioner. My work is in hospitals. I don't want to smolder in clinics. It's not my thing. Listen, Angelica, have you contacted any of our people? Maybe someone will help. Well, Maria, she works at the maternity hospital in the October district, and rumor has it, she's the head of the pregnancy department. Don't think I'll have anything against it. What's past is past. How are she and Alex doing? They're living. They have a son. I approached her. She offered me a place in the abortion ward. I don't know. She assures me the place won't be empty for long, and she's rushing me for an answer. It's a good place, she says. So many false abortions are performed. The money is flowing into her hands. I don't know if Selena thought, what do you think about it? Well, hear and consulted, grinned Angelica. I do not know, you do not know, but my husband knows. He was so happy that I was offered this place, as if I gave birth to a son. Selena, and then I dreamed about my grandmother. Smiling, I felt so warm, even in my dream, and my grandmother is young and pregnant. Can you imagine, pregnant? I'm trying to give her an abortion, but her fetus is screaming. It doesn't want to be killed. I can still hear it screaming in my ears. It's a horrible, horrible dream, horrible. Angelica, dream in hand, you really need to give up this place. If you want my advice, Angelica, I don't. I'm not a religious man, but abortion is murder. Angelica took the bottle of wine and poured herself a glass. Do you want some? She asked. I will pour. Well, that solved one of my problems. Angelica grinned. My grandmother was dying and said that she would guard me, and Leslie sent clues. So the clue came in the form of a dream. I remembered the fortune teller again, and this is the place where I'm supposed to kill. Selena, if I can't avoid it, why don't I just go on like I'm supposed to? If it's my destiny, I can't resist. Oh, why don't we go to the clinic? What does Aunt Betty say about that? That's a definite no. I don't do that. I don't do that sort of thing. What about Mom? My mom says it's up to me. I need doctors there too. You know, Selena and Jack really cheats on me, sadly, and as something aloof smiled Angelica. I caught him, as he with his mistress on the phone lounged. And maybe not with a mistress. Selena, I'm not an ostrich to hide my head in the sand, like nothing to see, nothing to hear. Do I look like a fool? You've never been stupid. What are you going to do? I don't know. Do you have any advice? It's up to you, Selena said. You decide here, you decide there, so we consulted. On my character, definitely divorce, but you've always been proud, Angelica. So where's your pride? The child is not even 3 years old, and he went to women. Maybe my advice isn't good for you, but I say no work in an abortion mill, divorce Jack. That's so easy for you. What's next? Time will tell. Why would you want to torture yourself, Angelica? Why live against your will, against your conscience? I'm pregnant, Selena, Angelica sobbed. You're crazy. So why do you drink wine? Or are you? I haven't decided yet. I'm waiting for a clue from my grandmother. Angelica smiled through her tears. Well, come on. Talked, got drunk, and somehow it became easier. I'm going home. I have to pick up Leslie from kindergarten. But you come on Saturday. Hey, Angelica, maybe I should talk to Jack. Does he know you're pregnant? No, he doesn't know yet. If he finds out, you won't authorize an abortion. Maybe the baby should be born if it's going to be like this. Maybe the baby was given to you to strengthen your family. So should I talk to Jack? You do that. Jack's birthday party was at a coffee shop. The birthday boy had gathered everyone he thought he needed. He liked the right people. Some people, to Selena, seemed out of their league. The impression that they were from the criminal world, dressed in the latest fashion and expensive, but much gave away in them not intelligent, so the diversity of the guests surprised Selena. On Angelica's side, there was only her mother and Selena, so they stayed together. I'm worried about Angelica, Julia confessed. I asked her what's going on with her, and she says, I'll figure it out. So she will, said Selena. Aunt Betty, don't let her go to the abortion room. Who's listening to us now? Julia sighed. You're the mother. Angelica will listen to you. She didn't listen when she married Jack, and she didn't listen here. She's going to work in the abortion room on Monday. She's coming, Selena said quietly, as if to herself. She's going to take this in. Harry and I saved people, and our daughter is going to kill them. Meanwhile, the party was gaining momentum, and Jack asked Selena to dance. Shall we join in the ecstasy? You bet, Jack laughed. Don't joke like that. I don't understand such jokes. I'm not joking. You're alone, and I feel sorry for you. You feel sorry for Angelica. She's your wife, and she's aware of your pussyfooting. Your family life is hanging by a thread. My family life is one thing, and being a jerk is another. One doesn't interfere with the other. Angelica's pregnant. She's stressed out, and your tumultuous life is making her think of abortion. Are you in favor of abortion? Are you? What if there's a son in there? No abortions. Then calm down, go back to your family. I didn't leave the family, Jack laughed. I'm just on a temporary hiatus for the good of my family. I have to blow off steam somewhere. Selena realized that the conversation with Jack had failed, so when the dance was over, she decided to go home, but Jack wouldn't let go of her hand. Friends, he turned to the guest, now a friend of my wife's. Selena tensed up and blushed. What else was he thinking? Dear guests, he raised Selena's hand clasped in his hand and shouted, my wife's friend told me that I'm going to be a father again, and I'm sure that this time I'll have a son. Here's to my wife. Jack let go of Selena's hand and hugged Angelica, to my beloved wife and my future son. Hooray! Everyone responded with clinking glasses and cheers. Angelica's eyes shone with happiness, and Selena realized that on her part, it was a bare favor for her friend. No one and nothing would change Jack. He would remain the same walker. He disgusted Selena so much that she decided to leave immediately. Are you leaving already? She heard behind her. Yes, I am. Why so early? I'm tired and I don't like the show. To be honest, I'm not comfortable here either. The man smiled, but I just dared to ask you to dance and you're already leaving. Can we dance somewhere else? What do you mean? Selena was wary. She could hear some underlying meaning in the man's words. Literally, I want to invite you to a restaurant where we could talk, and if you don't mind, dance. Oh, that's what you mean? Yeah, what did you think? The man was smiling. We don't even know each other. My name is Max, and you had already heard, Selena. Why don't you come to the restaurant with me? We've met. I work with Jack. I'm divorced, no kids. Since no one introduced me, I'll introduce myself and brag a little. I'm the head of the Department of Surgery, and Jack is my subordinate, continued smiling Max. I wanted to start, at least something to shine in front of you. You succeeded, Selena laughed, but I've had enough restaurants for today. I have to work tomorrow. Tomorrow's Sunday. The medics have their own schedules. Don't you know that? You're a medic. Max was surprised. Surgeon. That's great. We have something to talk about. I like to talk about my work. Me too, laughed Selena. Well, can I walk you out then? Walk me out since we're surgeons, Selena said. Selena had been dating Max for 6 months. Max had proposed to Selena, but she was putting off the moment of their marriage. As they say, once you've been burned by milk, you're still blowing on water. She wanted to get to know Max better because for some reason he divorced his wife. She didn't dare to ask about the reason for his divorce, and he didn't voice it himself. What are you thinking about? Angelica marveled. You need to get married, or you'll be an old maid. Selena could not answer her friend that looking at her family life, she was not happy about it. She was afraid to step on the rake, which so painfully hit Angelica. I do not understand the reason for Max's divorce from his wife, and ask him directly in the forehead. I do not have the guts. What's the big deal? Ask him, it's the right thing to do. It's an important aspect. I asked Jack. He says there are rumors about Max's divorce, but they're just rumors. One person says one thing, another person says another. What do they say? Selena was curious. They say that his wife has slept with his subordinate. Others say that she went to live abroad, and Max did not want to go there. You better ask him yourself. No secrets, Max answered Selena. She went to live abroad with a surgeon from our department. That's the truth. I didn't want to vilify her to justify myself. It's like I'm the good guy and it's her fault. If that's the reason that's been holding up our marriage, Selena, you would have asked me before. I just thought you'd hate to hear about my failed marriage. I realized a lot of things after the divorce. A woman needs attention, and I was so immersed in work that I could not give her full attention. I justified myself, just got the position of head of department. So much work piled up at once, there was no time left for his wife. Well, that's what led to the divorce. I love you, Selena. I promise you that this will not happen again. I know how to recognize and correct my mistakes, especially since the work in the department is already well established. So, registry office? I'm in. Jack was shining with happiness. Angelica had never seen him like that, not even on his wedding day. A son had been born, and that said it all. Seeing her husband's delight, Angelica was charged with such happiness from his joy that it seemed there would be no limit to it. Little Mickey brought peace, calm, and happiness to their family. Angelica, my Angelica, how I love you. Jack triumphed. I knew you would give me a son. How I love you, my darlings. Citing the fact that a newborn requires a lot of time and attention, Jack and Angelica sent Leslie to live and care for Jack's mother, Leslie. So, did your long-awaited son kick Leslie out of the house? Asked Angelica's mother-in-law. Angelica was silent. She knew that the best answer a mother-in-law could give was silence. And I knew that everything was coming to that, and I am even glad that Leslie is with me. At least I love her. When Mickey was born, Leslie was forgotten. And she's a baby. She needs love. Why are you telling me all this? Angelica couldn't stand it. Why don't you tell Jack? Jack is a man, and you are a mother, a woman. A lot depends on you and the family. Where's your motherly love? I love Leslie. Angelica resisted her mother-in-law's accusations. It's just 2 little kids. It's hard. If it's hard for you to help us, don't help us, I'll ask my mom. Mom, she will ask. Went to shout mother-in-law. A lot of your mother helped. And then I do not trust her. Leslie myself will raise her. Leslie poorly understood what her mother and grandmother shouted about. She was crammed into a corner of her crib and watched the adults with fear. "Pack your things," said Leslie angrily. "Stop scaring the child." Leslie called the girl grandmother. "Come here, baby. It's time for us to go." If Jack did not show paternal feelings to little Naskia, now he hurried home to his son and did not let him off his hands. "My son Mickey, shown father, finally arrived men in our regiment, or else only women in the family." Jack's left-handed relationships with his mistresses stopped for a while, and Angelica was finally happy. She gave her husband what he expected of her. Because of the endless happiness that little Mickey had brought her, Angelica loved her son so much that she sometimes reproached herself for not having such unconditional love for her daughter. No, she loved Leslie, of course, but not as much as she loved Mickey. Her son was not just a light in the window. He was the sun without which she could not live. Mickey was spoiled by both his mother and father, which angered his mother-in-law. "Do you even remember that you have a daughter?" Leslie reproached both son and daughter-in-law. By that time, Leslie was living with her parents. "She's like a servant. Leslie, do this. Leslie, do that." "Mom, stop turning Leslie against us. What are you getting so mad at us for? We're a normal family. We don't hurt Leslie," Jack reassured her. "Of course you do, but you don't love her either." These arguments could go on forever. Jack couldn't take it anymore and walked his mother home. "Mom, let me walk you home. I'm sick of you breaking up our family. Enough with the divisiveness. You're turning Leslie against us, and you're turning Mickey against us. Will you stop? That'll be enough when you treat my little girl with love. He's your brother. He came to see me, thought you might be able to help him. You're registered with me, so he must have found us through your address. I said that you live in another city, and I don't know your address, that we don't communicate. What a sin, Angelica." He hanged himself. "My God!" Angelica screamed. "Why?" "Anna, his and your sister sent a letter. Here it is. It's all written there." Julia pointed to a blue envelope lying on the table. With a trembling hand, she poured water into a glass and drank it in one gulp. "I'm responsible for his death, my daughter. But I didn't think it would happen." "Mom, don't blame yourself. You protected your family, and then I don't know if I need this kinship, and I don't know if I could have helped him. He came for money. He needed a large sum of money. He owed money, and they put him on the meter and threatened to destroy the family." Julia sighed. "He borrowed money to develop his business, but he failed, and the debt had to be repaid." "That's it, Angelica? So he killed himself." "Mom, I don't have that much money to help him either. Jack does, but he never give it to him. He never lends it to anyone, and he never give it to anyone. So don't blame yourself. Nobody, in all the time I lived with you, remembered me, but they did when they needed the money. I didn't know about them, and they probably knew about me and didn't need me, but they needed my money. Harvey must have been desperate to turn to you, because he didn't know what to do," Julia sighed. "Well, out of desperation, but this Hope, so-called, my sister, why did she write this letter? To make us feel guilty?" "Mom, calm down. We're not guilty of anything. They have their own life. We have our own, and it doesn't resonate with ours." Angelica hugged her mother and she cried. "And you, mommy, cry, cry, cry. The tension will go away. Now I'll sedative drops you pump. We'll drink tea with you, and everything will be fine," smiled Angelica. "And the most dear to me is you, and no one I do not need." "Thank you, daughter," thankfully through tears smiled Julia. "Thank you for not pushing her away." "Why, mommy, why would I push you away? Thank you for taking me in, or I would have ended up in an orphanage. I'm very grateful to you and Daddy for everything, for every moment of my life. Live with you." The relatives have appeared, just as the fortune teller predicted. All her predictions are realized step by step. Angelique is scared for herself, for her family, for Mickey. No, something has to change in her life, something to interrupt the events that are chasing Angelica. She's so scared for Mickey because, like the fortune teller said, she's going to lose him. "What are you thinking of quitting?" Jack asked unhappily. "Where are you going?" "To the clinic for a pittance. More, I can't tear life out of women's wombs anymore. Can you understand me? Morally, I can't." Angelica doesn't talk about what the fortune teller told her. Jack would laugh at her. He already thinks he's the only one who's right, and he'd rather not talk about the fortune teller. If she told him they might lose Mickey, she'd be in for a hell of a ride. "I'm going into teaching. I've been invited to medical school." "Why do you get to decide everything?" Jack was outraged. "We're a family. I don't have a say. My opinion doesn't count. What family? Angelica smiled sadly. Where do you see family? There's me and the kids and you and your eternal mistresses. You know what? Don't start. I can't breathe with your jealousy right here. Jack ran his hand down my throat. I can't breathe with you. Why don't you and I get a divorce and everyone can breathe freely? Never, ever, ever will my son grow up without a father. And yet I'm going into teaching whether you like it or not. As long as I like it. Jack cursed profanely and slammed the front door shut and stormed out of the house. Alina felt like she had broken the chain of predictions by leaving the abortion war, but she still felt uneasy. She decided to go to church to repent and receive Holy Communion so that the Lord would absolve her of her sins. The bishop listened to her attentively. During the confession, the softness in his face disappeared. He looked at Angelica with such anger he could not hide his emotions. As soon as she told him that she had been aborting women for 15 years, he wouldn't listen to her anymore. Enough, the father said sternly. You are worse than a murderer. Not only that you have so many murdered, deprived of life babies on your account, but you interfered with the Lord's providence, killed God's creation. There's no forgiveness for you. You can never atone for that. I don't know what brought you here. I do not believe in your repentance for such a long purposeful sin. You do not have my blessing to atone for your sins. Go away. Angelica walked and wept. She wanted to find comfort in the church, but found anger, misunderstanding, and the bishop threw her out of the temple as the last creature. She felt even worse. Anxiety and nervousness overwhelmed her. She did not want to bring her tiredness and pain home. She didn't want to frighten the children with her condition, and it was useless to share her innermost thoughts with Jack. They hadn't understood each other for a long time. She didn't want to bother her mom either. She'd given up lately. She was sick. Hello, friend, Angelica called Selena and continued cheerfully. It's been a long time since we've seen each other. Can you devote some of your precious time to me? Although the tone of Angelica's voice was cheerful, Celine immediately realized that something was wrong with Angelica. There was a tear in her tone that Selena could detect. What's wrong? Nothing yet. Can we meet? You know, Angelica, if I'm not at work, I'm always ready for you. I'm outside your house already. I'm waiting for you. Come on up. No, Selena, I'll wait for you here. I don't want to bring my negativity into your house. We'll sit in the summer cafe. We'll talk. I'll be right there. I'll be right there, Selena said. Can you imagine, Selena? The priest kicked me out of church. He said I'm unforgivable. You know, Angelica, I don't believe in those priests. Stop getting yourself worked up. And I believe, sighed Angelica, and I'm also afraid of Celine, very afraid. You've never been a coward. It's just nerves. You need to rest. How's Jack? Jack's the same, but I don't care about his womanizing. That's not what I'm talking about, Selena. I'm scared. You know, scared. Why don't we get a divorce? It'll make you nervous and exhausted. That's a given. I pretend I don't give a shit about my husband's affairs, and I'll tell you what I don't like, but that's not what's killing me. Yeah, about the divorce, I offered him a divorce, but he wouldn't do it. I don't know what he doesn't want. You file for divorce, and they'll divorce him without his consent. I'm afraid of him, Selena. He's a criminal. He'll take Mickey away from me, and I won't do anything about it. I mean criminals. Operating on them, gunplay, stabbings, anything goes. I've hit a pager. Pick up my tool bag and go. But that doesn't scare me so much. You know what I'm scared of, Selena? That fortune teller's prediction. I was skeptical until now, but now I'm scared. I'm scared for Mickey. Look, your children came true, your happiness came true, your marriage came true, and the newspaper wrote about you. But I haven't written a book, Selena smiled. How old are you, Selena? You'll write more. A lot of things have come true for me too. Not that much. Everything has come true, but I have a fear in me, a fear of losing Mickey, and it's so overwhelming that I can't sleep at night. My relatives, like the fortune teller said, have come forward. What's the next step? I decided to interrupt the chain of events, quit my job at the abortion center, went to confession and repentance, and I'm not allowed to go there. Is Mickey next? Angelica sobbed in her voice, and the people sitting in the cafe started looking back at her friends. Stop it, Angelica. You have to believe that it's not going to happen, and that's it. Selena realized that Angelica was right, that the predictions were coming true step by step, and that Mickey was probably under a stroke of fate. Angelica ordered a vodka. Will you have one? She asked Selena. I need a drink. I will, Selena replied. She wanted to support her friend, but she didn't know how. But don't drink too much, Selena added. It doesn't do any good. Come on, I've never been into it, but now I just need a drink. The friends drank 2 shots of vodka and Angelica began to calm down. I need to do something, but I don't know what. Selena, you can always see from the outside. Maybe you know what to do. Angelica's eyes read panic, but honestly, Selena didn't know how to help her, and suddenly an idea came to her. Angelica, you know what? Let's go see that fortune teller if she's still alive. Maybe she can give us some advice. I don't know. Angelica didn't dare. The priest said that fortune telling is a sin, and I have enough sins on my account. But I've been fortune telling too, and you see, nothing terrible happens to me. You're right. Come on, agreed Angelica. Maybe we really need some kind of right to interrupt the chain of events. Encouraged by this decision, Angelica smiled and said, "What would I do without you, friend? And if it works out, tomorrow we will go to this aunt." "Hello," greeted the fortune teller. The aunt has certainly aged, but was quite recognizable. She put on her glasses and looked at the guests carefully. "I guess you've been to my place before. I have a good memory for faces," the fortune teller asked. "Yes, we came to see you," Selena answered, "a long time ago, when we were students." Angelica was silent, a kind of inner nervousness pounding her. The fortune teller looked at Angelica, smirked and said, "And this is you? I remember how you did not believe my words. What now you do? You do now that you're here. I remember that I predicted a difficult fate for you, but what I predicted, I don't remember. A lot of time has passed. A lot of fates have passed through me. That's why I don't remember." "Are we going to guess again?" the fortune teller asked. "Or have you come for something else?" "I'm scared," admitted Angelica. "All that you predicted, all step by step comes true. According to the prediction, my son, my Mickey is going to leave this life. I want to know if it is possible to stop this fate, to change the fate of my son and mine." The fortune teller sighed and looked away. She wanted to comfort the woman, but she knew that nothing would interrupt the chain of fateful decisions. "I repent, very repentant for my careless life," continued Angelica. "Okay? What happens to me, I put up with it and will continue to put up with. But the son, I cannot calm you down," said the fortune teller. "In vain you came to me. I do not write the fate of people. You have resigned yourself to your fate, and the death of your son, this is also your fate. This is your test. Do something." Angelica shouted in despair. "Every minute I expect the death of my son. How can I live with it? Why should wife have such a fate?" "Everyone has his own destiny," answered the fortune teller, "and it is written from birth to death, and whatever you do, everything will happen as it should happen. Damn you with your fortune telling." Angelica shouted and ran out of the fortune teller's house. "Angelica, Angelica," Celine shouted after her. But Angelica did not see or hear anything. She ran and ran. From the pain that overwhelmed her, from the despair of hopelessness, she wanted to scream at the top of her voice. She did not want to live, did not want to see her son go. Running away from herself somewhat quieted the tearing pain of her soul. She sat down on a bench, took a breath, and went home. As she entered the yard, she heard the phone ringing insistently behind the closed door of her house. Angelica went into the house, picked up the phone. "Angelica, are you home?" "How are you, Angelica?" She heard Selena's voice. "I'll be right there. Will you open the door?" "No need to come," Angelica replied. "I want to be alone." Local authority Anthony, nicknamed Cobra, put Jack in fear, danger, but Jack liked to receive a tidy sum from Cobra every month, which calmed him down a little. The surname and nickname suited this subhuman perfectly. The smooth movements of his body, his stiff neck, and his gaze, especially the gaze of his almost colorless eyes with black fixed pupils, terrified everyone. When he addressed anyone, his eyes were piercing in their coldness, and it seemed as if he was about to blow his cobra hood and lunge at you. It was impossible to read any emotion in his eyes, but Cobra's leap was predictable. He never hid his intentions for anyone. The soft-spoken Cobra warned of his danger with one word: war. If someone heard that word, he was dead, and only Cobra and his thugs knew how and when it would happen. Jack had always kept his hands from stress, for a surgeon's hands were the end of his professional life. But today, he couldn't keep them from shaking. Tonight at 1800 at the Neva restaurant, he had an appointment with Anthony. He was operating on a patient at the time when Jack's pager flashed a message. "Urgent to see me. so he couldn't leave everything and go to the address. He tried to finish the operation as quickly as possible, but his nervousness and his movements prevented him from concentrating. "Well, the operation is finished. I need to leave now, urgently," Jack asked the supervisor. "You have 2 more surgeries scheduled for today," Max replied in bewilderment. "It's a matter of life and death, Max. The surgeries are not emergencies. I will stay overtime and perform them, but now I have to leave." "Okay, though. Tomorrow's not an OR day, but you're working. I'll see you tomorrow then," Jack shouted as he left. "Warn about the postponement of operations of those you were supposed to operate today. People are worried," shouted Max after Jack leaving. When Jack arrived at the address, it was late. On the bed, sprawled out, with a gunshot wound in his chest, lay a dead young man. In all the time Jack had been in charge of crime, this was the first time he hadn't saved a man. He hadn't known the risks at the time, but when he'd heard that the young man was Cobra's son, his blood ran cold. That was then, and today, 9 days after the death of Anthony's son, he is summoned to an audience with Cobra. At the restaurant Neva, Jack arrived early, but at the entrance there were already waiting for him shaven-headed men. One of them he knew operated on him. To calm himself down, Jack turned to him. "How are you, Anton? Are the old wounds bothering you?" The frowning man didn't even look at Jack, and he realized that nothing good would come from meeting Anthony. Anthony would not forgive him for his son. He would probably hear the word war from him. Inwardly, Jack was ready for it, but still the hope of pardon flickered in his soul. But how could one be prepared for Cobra's war? The mere thought made Jack shiver, and the chill never ceased. Cobra was silent as Jack, gritting his teeth in fear, greeted him. One of the brawls pressed his shoulder, signaling for him to sit down in a chair. "I'm sorry for your grief," Jack began to babble, "but I couldn't come right away. I was operating." "Shut up," he heard from Cobra and met his unmoving pupils. "We pay you so much money. You could have avoided working in hospitals, but you didn't appreciate our contribution to you. Is your son alive?" Jack thought he could see the hood of Cobra behind those words right now. He wanted to answer Valentin Vasilievich, but fear gripped him. It seemed that his tongue was swollen, and he could not utter a word. "Your son is alive," Cobra said affirmatively, "but you didn't save mine." "War," Anthony gritted through his teeth, "and try to hide or send your family anywhere. They will find you everywhere, and then you'll be begging for death." Jack didn't have time to answer. Cobra nodded his head slightly in Jack's direction, and the brothers took the surgeon under their arms and threw him out of the restaurant. To say Jack was terrified was an understatement. He realized that this was it. He couldn't escape Cobra. He knew he and his family would be followed. He couldn't operate because he was literally shaking, so he took a vacation, sat at home, got drunk, and waited for Cobra's retribution. But Anthony was in no hurry to retaliate. Apparently he enjoyed keeping his victim in suspense, because waiting for death was worse than death itself. Angelica realized that something was wrong with Jack, but she kept silent, afraid to ask about his sudden love of alcohol, afraid to hear what she was running from. It happened just as 40 days had passed since the death of Anthony's son. It was an ordinary spring Sunday afternoon. Jack had plans of his own for that day. His mistress was leaving for a sanitarium, and he was seeing her off. Leslie was going to bake a cake, so Mickey ran to the store to get food for the cake. Angelica was tending to the beds in the vegetable garden. When she finished, she went inside, turned on the water heater, and went to take a shower. The sound of the water drowned out the other noises in the house, so when she came out of the bathroom, she saw Mickey lying on his back in the doorway between the kitchen and the hallway. Clutched in her son's hands was a bag of groceries. Angelica called an ambulance and got ready to help her son, but the last thing she saw was Leslie lying on the floor of the room with their dog Charlie beside her. That was it. Her eyes went blurry, and she couldn't see or hear anything else. When the ambulance arrived, there was no one to meet the crew. The paramedics staggered to the locked gate and made a false call and left. Jack put his mistress on the train and returned home. The picture he saw horrified him. He opened all the windows and doors, and without stopping to resuscitate Mickey, called an ambulance. "Hurry, hurry," Jack shouted to the doctor who had entered the house, here to wife. "Stop it, stop it." The doctor shouted at him as he looked at the boy. "He's dead." Angelica and Leslie, unconscious, were loaded into an ambulance and taken away. Selena," Jack shouted into the phone, All of mine, Mickey, Angelica, and Leslie are in intensive care. We've got the police in the house. They think they've been burned by carbon monoxide from the heater. Something's happened to the extractor fan. Selena sobbed. Jack, it's my fault. It's all my fault. I can't call. I don't have the guts. Call the emergency room at the 3rd hospital, find out how they are. What about Gianni? He knew his son was dead, but he didn't want to believe it. He was shutting himself off from the truth. Hello. A family has come to you? Carbon monoxide poisoning, Selena said. When the other end of the line picked up, please tell me their condition. What makes you think it's carbon monoxide poisoning? They are poisoned with nerve paralytic gas, answered the doctor on duty. The boy is dead, and the woman and the girl are unconscious. Are you thinking of burying our son? Jack asked first of all, when Angelica woke up and regained consciousness. Angelica listened to him. He seemed to have lost his mind. What noodles? She didn't want to live. Jack was drunk all the time, probably drunk. It's easier for him to bear the loss of his son. But at the same time, he was talking such nonsense, it would be better if he didn't come to Angelica. Nothing is keeping us together now. Mickey is gone and I want to live alone, Jack told Angelica. We haven't buried our son, Angelica said, her lips numb from the sedatives. We'll bury Mickey and Leslie and I will leave. Right now, Angelica didn't care what he said. She hated him and didn't want to see him because Jack blamed Angelica for everything. You're responsible for Mickey's death. You're the doctor. You were there for him and you couldn't save our son, sobbed the drunken Jack. I hate you. Stuffed with sedatives, Angelica remained silent. Now she didn't care what he said to her. She hated him too. After her son's funeral, Angelica and Leslie went to live with her mother. She couldn't be with Jack, who was always drunk and blaming her for Mickey's death. After her son's death, she lived and didn't live. It seemed to her that she herself was buried with Gianni. She was in a world of her own, close to everyone, and she carried her pain inside her. Well, it came true. Everything came true that the fortune teller told me. Angelica told Selena after the funeral of her son, I have only to die, although I am almost dead. Almost dead? There is no such definition, Selena replied. You have a long life ahead of you. You have Leslie, Ma. You have to live. Selena wanted to tell Angelica that the fortune teller had predicted her second marriage, but she kept silent. What marriage? Angelica is so lost. She needs to get back to herself, find herself. Should I live? Why should I live, Selena? Angelica cried. For Nastia, look what a bride she is. She's about to get married. She'll have grandchildren. Life goes on. Selena hugged her. How to live? Who will answer me? How? When the most important man in my life, Mickey, is gone. Leslie began her rant as soon as she got to Julia's house. Hi, Grandma. Leslie jumped up and kissed her on the cheek. Wait, baby, wait. Leslie pulled away from her granddaughter and stared at Angelica with an angry, judgmental look. What kind of wife are you? She turned to her daughter-in-law. You left your husband in distress? You used Jack and left him, and he's drinking. He needs support. He's having a hard time. You should have helped him through Mickey's death and then left. It's not human. The mother-in-law sat down on a chair and cried. Why are you so angry, Anastasia, with such accusations? Julia stood up for her daughter. Jack himself put them out and blamed Angelica for the death of her son. And this tragedy happened because of his fault. He got involved with criminals. We don't know why they didn't like him, but it was his fault. They wanted to exterminate the whole family. In fact, it's not safe for Angelica and Leslie to be around Jack. They might try to kill him again. What crime are you talking about, Betty? Carbon monoxide poisoning. That's what the coroner's office said. The investigation was bought by the same criminal. Angelica answered her mother-in-law, so they made such a conclusion, and the doctors originally said that we had gas poisoning of nervous paralytic action, but the criminal shut everyone up. People are afraid, so they keep the truth out of it. Jack's been a criminal for a long time. I just didn't tell you about it. I didn't want to worry you. I asked him to cut his ties with the brothers, but who listens to me? You know Jack does what he wants. Nobody tells him what to do. I feel sorry for him, Leslie cried. He's my son. Just as you feel sorry for Mickey, I feel sorry for Boria. What will happen now? Will they kill him? I don't know, answered Angelica. They can get to Leslie and me. For these people, there are no barriers. Angelica, please go back to Jack. He left the hospital. He was asked to leave. Who needs a surgeon who drinks? He's working in prison, where his talent isn't needed. He's getting drunk, Angelica. Leslie, you are an adult. The grandmother turned to her granddaughter. He is your father. Take pity on him. Leslie was silent. She felt sorry for both her mother and grandmother, and she did not know whose side to take. Why do you, Anastasia? The girl on the soul of such a burden hangs. Julia intervened in the conversation. Jack is a grown man, himself chose such a life. How can Leslie help him? I say this out of desperation. Leslie sighed. I'm sorry. She stood up and headed for the exit. He's my son, Leslie said, and walked out of Julia's house, closing the door quietly. I feel sorry for Grandma, said Leslie, looking out the window at the slouching figure of Grandma. Mom, can I live with her for a while to support her? You can, Leslie, Angelica said. We're all here together, and she's alone, and it's a shame. Yes, Pavlovna's militant spirit had gone, Julia said. We were all affected by the grief. Jack found solace in alcohol. Angelica was treated in a clinic for borderline conditions. Leslie went sick, and Leslie took care of her. Betty was the only one who held firm. She had not seen such things in the war. But still she was very worried about Angelica, afraid that her daughter might lose her mind from grief. She had faced such things too. Julia did not give vent to her fears, because you can say, thanks to her strong spirit, she keeps Angelica afloat. And Selena, Angelica's friend, is always ready to lend a helping hand. She's the one who got Angelica tacitly admitted to the clinic. Angelica herself in any way did not agree to lay down, afraid of publicity, afraid of losing work with students, but felt that she could not cope with the death of his son. Cooper probably thought that he and Jack were even, so he didn't take any more action against him or his family. Jack calmed down a little, but in half a year alcohol had gotten him into it and wouldn't let him out of its clutches. Constant alcohol consumption, once a successful surgeon, turned into a drunkard who can no longer without a certain dose of vodka or alcohol. He did not get very drunk, but constantly drunk, he gradually degenerated. Once glossy, trim, successful man, turned into an alcoholic. Angelica's divorce from Jack was unemotional. Jack simply did not show up for the trial. The trial was postponed and they were divorced for the second time. Angelica was grateful to Jack that he did not enter into judicial conflicts, did not challenge them, because all their property was divided by the court in half. A lot of Jack's money, which he wanted to give to Angelica in the account of their house, the default turned into wrappers, so they had to sell the house, buy 2 one-room apartments and divide it in this way. After the treatment in the clinic, Angelica slowly began to return to normal. She stopped crying, stopped often visiting Mickey's grave, and prayed for the repose of her son's soul, asking God for strength to withstand the unbearable pain of losing her son. And it must be said, she helped in prayers and the clinic. Leslie never recovered from the stress of the loss of her grandson and the terrible truth about her son, did not get up more grandmother, and died in the arms of her granddaughter. Before she died, Leslie gave her granddaughter a will for her apartment. This is my gift to you, Leslie, said the grandmother. Please, at least once in a while visit my grave and visit your poor father. No one but you, he has no one left. Forgive him, Leslie, he didn't know what he was doing. The devil got him mixed up with money, and now another devil has entered him. I can feel it in my soul that he's in him for destruction. Promise me, granddaughter. Promise? Yes, I promise, cried Leslie. She loved her grandmother, and her grandmother loved and pitied her. Leslie realized that the parents did not give Naskia love, so that the girl's heart did not harden, in every possible way tried to compensate for parental love. I want to die and know that you love and you are loved. You cannot live without love. Without love, a person withers and even sick. You see how your father and mother live without love. I have a fiancé. We thought you'd get well, and we get married. You bring him to me, I'll look at you. I'll be happy and don't wait. I won't get up, Leslie. Get married and live together. I'll die soon and you'll have an apartment. You just love each other. So, with Grandma's blessing, Leslie got married, and soon Grandma was buried. Drunk Jack did not want to leave his mother's grave, and Naskia and her husband had to force him into the car and take him home. Leslie had promised her grandmother to look after her father, and she kept her word. Excuse me, Angelica. Angelica heard behind her back and flinched in surprise. Yes, she replied, turning around. A bald man in glasses was looking at her. His beard and mustache hid his smile, but there was something familiar in his posture, and the notes in his voice were familiar. Angelica, and I see you and not you. And it turns out it's you. The man rushed to her, hugged her, and kissed her on the cheek. "You have no idea how happy I am. I've been looking at you for months now, recognizing you and not recognizing you. I didn't dare approach you. Maybe it's not you." "Excuse me," Angelica said confusedly. "Yes, time has not spared us. I see you don't recognize me." "No," Angelica admitted. "Alex, remember?" "God and Angelica said in a raspy voice. "Now I recognize, but not at first. Did not recognize. Where are your curls? And you were not a bespectacled man and shaved clean. And you Angelica, you were so funny. What's wrong with you, Angelica? I see you always wearing a black scarf and your eyes are sad. You look like you're about to cry. I live next door in my parents' apartment. I buried my son," sighed Angelica. "It's been almost a year. It's scary, Alex. Children to bury." I'm sorry. Alex apologized hastily. "What's the matter? That's what it is. That's what it is. You can't get away from it. I divorced my husband, that's why I live here." "Why aren't you with Maria?" "We're different. We divorced. The kids are grown, and I'm on the margins of life." "How come?" "You know Maria's always had a grip." "I know," Angelique smiled, "and she grabbed onto you. We were fools. I remember how stupid we were, Angelica." "Have you wised up now?" Angelica laughed. "I don't know. From the outside you can see better," laughed Alex, "but only from the beginning. We were not a couple with Maria. Now my ex has her own clinic. She's on fire at work. She has connections, she has money, and I have no place there. I'm a doctor at the city hospital. I, Angelica, am not a commercial doctor. I'm an ordinary, prehistoric, with the Hippocratic Oath. I'm not a modern doctor. Do you understand?" "I understand," Angelica frowned. "There aren't many like you these days. My husband tried to become a modern doctor and sacrificed his son. He was in the service of the brothers, so they killed our son." "I'm sorry, Angelica. I know you're not in the mood for my confessions. How's Selena doing?" "Selena's fine. Good husband, good kids, good job." "Does that happen?" "Rarely, Alex, but as you can see, it happens." "What apartment are you in?" 28. I'm in 406. Come in whenever you want. We have a lot to talk about. Do you practice?" "No, I teach." "Why?" Alex was surprised. "You have a talent for medicine. You've always been praised." "So practiced, Alex. I can't run away from my practice. Are you ever coming to see me, or are you just gonna talk to me and run away? That would be a shame. Will you?" "Yes, I will, laughed Angelica. "Where will I go?" "I have a car. If you need a ride, I'm at your service. Don't be shy." "I won't be shy. It's the anniversary of Mickey's death next week. Take me and my mom to the cemetery. Because my mom's old, her legs won't listen. What's the fun of being cold in the trenches in the war and standing at the operating table all your life?" "Is Aunt Betty alive?" "She's alive. She's sick." "And mine are gone," Alex said sadly. "Aunt Betty, and I was so happy to see you." Alex smiled sincerely. "The city is big. We get lost in it. And then one day, and Angelica and I live in the same house." It was like I was back to the time when Angelica and I were students. "Remember how I used to love coming to your house? My grandmother used to bake pineapple and sprinkle it so thickly with powdered sugar. It was the best I'd ever eaten." Julia smiled at Alex's words and said, "Those were good times. People were simple. They lived with heart and soul." "I see, Alex. You are the same. Don't change, Alex. Don't worship the money idol. Be yourself." "What about me, Aunt Betty? I'm the same fool I've always been. Those who are smarter, they make money, and I am faithful to my duty as a doctor." "That's good," smiled Julia, "on such as you, Alex. Ivan the fool, and our mother USA is kept." "Come on, Aunt Betty. How can I be the backbone of the United States?" "I know what I'm saying, Alex. It's people like you. I've seen people like you in the war, ordinary people with a belief in their truth win. It's good to see you too, Alex." Julia changed the subject. "Who would take me to my grandson's grave? A cab driver? I mean, how could we have had such a heart-to-heart? I'm glad I can do you such a small favor." Angelica was silent, overwhelmed with grief. At times, she wasn't even on the subject of her mother's conversation with Alex. Her heart was already with Jenya. As they approached the cemetery, Alex fell silent. He understood Angelica's grief and didn't want to disturb it with his chatter. At her son's grave, Angelica cried, hugging her mother, while Julia, like a real soldier, didn't shed a tear. She frowned, stroked her daughter on the mourning shawl that covered her head and said, "Cry a little, but only a little. Mickey sees us, I know he does. You know, Angelica, what a joyful and bright boy he was. He won't like it if you're always washing your face with tears." Alex stood beside them. He wanted to take the two women in his arms and not let them go until their pain had flowed to him and they had calmed down and loved their Mickey without the grief that was destroying them. Love Mickey as if he were alive. And Alex, he's strong. He can handle it. At this moment, it seemed to him there were no people dearer and more dear to him than these two women. "Angelica," Alex called out to her, "Angelica, Aunt Betty is right. Smile at your son. Let him see that you remember him with joy." Angelica looked at him with a pained look and said, "I can't, not yet." Alex helped Julia out of the car, and as he closed the back door, she looked at him pleadingly and said, "Drop by Angelica's house more often. She needs support." "I'm afraid of being pushy," Alex admitted. "Don't be afraid, Alex. A man should be intrusive." Julia smiled and stroked his shoulder. "Thanks for the delivery." She winked at Sasha and leaned on her cane and walked to her entrance. "Hello, friend." "Angelica, I hear you on a positive note. Glad to hear it. You doing okay?" "I'm doing fine, thanks to your help and your prayer." "Stop thanking me all the time. We're practically sisters." "Why am I calling you?" Angelica said I ran into Alex. Turns out he and I live in the same house. "Why in the same house?" Selena was surprised. As far as I know, Maria has a castle in the country. He and Maria are divorced. What a friend. We thought Alex would become as mercantile as Maria Ivanovna. But no, he didn't. That's why he didn't come to the court of Queen Maria. That's life, Selena. Alex has changed. I didn't recognize him at all. Bald, with glasses and a beard. Can you imagine him like that? No, I remember him curly-haired, mouth to ears, with his always bawdy jokes. That Alex is gone, Selena, just like I'm gone. He invited me to visit. Would you like to see your former love? Why? I, Angelica, am so happy that I don't care about exes. I'm not talking about meeting as friends. That's what I'm talking about. I leave everything in the past. I live in the here and now, answered Selena. It suits me. I often go back to the past. I don't have the here and now. Angelica, you are a young woman. You can find your happiness. Young? Angelica laughed. My Leslie is pregnant. I'll be a grandmother soon. Really? Yes, a grandmother. That's great. Do you know the sex of the baby, or can't you tell yet? It's a boy, a grandson. Angelica, I'm happy for you. Hi, Leslie. I think it would be good for both of you to visit Alex. You think so? Why not? What the hell? Selena laughed. What are you talking about? Angelica took offense. What are you implying? I mean that two lonely people can become not lonely. You? Me? Angelica, me. That's life, Angelica. I agree with her when unhappy people become happy. Maybe it's because I'm happy myself and I wish everyone could be. But there are buts. But there are no buts. It's always up to the people themselves. Do you remember, Angelica, how you said, we will be happy to spite everyone happy, remember? Well, don't do it to spite everyone. Do it for the good of yourself and your loved ones. Well, you're crazy, Angelica said quietly. I didn't expect that from you. Alex is your ex. He was never mine. If he was, we'd be together. I believe in fate, I do. Do you want to go to the fortune teller one more time, one last time, and you'll know if Alex is your man or not? After all, she predicted your second marriage. Angelica was silent for a minute and answered, uncomfortable. I was not myself then, cursed her. Now I'm ashamed, but then I was ready to destroy the whole world just to keep my Mickey alive. You think you're the first and you're the last person to send her a curse. Selena said, and if I were you, I'd go. Do you want to go together? No, Selena, no. Alex visited Angelica a lot. She accepted him as a friend, but the more he visited her, the more his affection for Angelique grew. He didn't understand why he was so drawn to the sad, brooding Angelique. Before, when Angelique had been a self-assured chucklehead, had she pissed him off? Maybe because he himself was her likeness. He's used to saving people, so maybe he wants to save Angelica like all the other people he's operated on. He couldn't explain his feelings for his fellow student, but he couldn't go a day without seeing Angelique. He began to ration his meetings with Angelica, but it made him want to be near her even more. He realized he loved her. Yes, he loves her. That's why he always wants to see her. Every day, always wants to be with her. What's the celebration? Angelica asked when she opened the door and saw Alex with a bouquet of roses. This is for you. Alex held out the bouquet and blushed like a cancer. Why are you so red? Pressure? No, walking into the room, he said, the heat outside, and then Angelica, I'm worried. Any reason to be worried? Angelique asked. I have. Kill me, Angelica, but I love you. Exhaled Alex, I can't imagine a day without you. Wait, Sash. Such a confession stunned Angelica. You imagined Alex. I'm a grandmother to whom everything seems something. I'm a grown man, Angelica. Do you know how long I've been waiting to tell you this? I was afraid you pushed me away. Alex grabbed Angelica and kissed her. Angelica didn't resist Alex's onslaught. She was a little confused. He held Angelica in his arms and wasn't going to let her go. Will you chase her away? Now you want to chase her away? Alex asked, burying his face in her hair. I'm not going to leave. I'm not going to leave Angelica. Angelica laughed softly. Now she saw that copy, confident Alex as he had been in his student days. Why are you crying, Angelica? Alex was frightened. He looked away from Angelica and saw that she was laughing and already openly giggling, and he also saw in her that forgotten Angelica Diggler. Why are you laughing? Alex smiled. Are you Angelica? What does that mean? You're a fool, Alex. And I know, but fools are usually loved, or at least pity them. Agreed with his status of fool, Alex. Fools are forgiven a lot. So forgive me, Angelica, because I love you. You are 3 times a fool, because I love you too, and you don't see it, smiled Angelica. He pressed Angelica even tighter to him and said, Thank you, my love, it's a relief. Look, I'm not red anymore. You are beautiful, Alex. Looked at him, said Angelica. How easy it is for me to be with you. I thought love was always painful. I would have thought so if I hadn't met you again. God must have sent you to me for my sincere prayers and my remorse. I saw you myself and approached you myself. Alex smiled. I want to be with you myself. But by God's will, Angelica crossed herself and crossed her Alex. Angelica, I like that you crossed me. Always do that, okay? Okay, my darling.
Thank you for watching this video to the end. Subscribe to the channel. Like it, write comments if you like the story, and see you on the channel.